now be a moment for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. Order, honorable members. I have been informed that the WIPRI has agreed that there will be no notices of motion or motions without notice. Before we proceed, honorable members, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the Minister, and if at all there is any special delegates or SALGA representatives that are attending today. You are most welcome, brother. Thank you. The Secretary will now read the first order of the day.
Policy debate on budget vote number 28, Labour, Appropriation Bill, B6 2019, National Assembly, Section 77.
Thank you, Secretary. We will now begin the debate, the policy debate on budget vote number 28, and we will request the Honourable Minister of Employment and Labour, Honourable Tulas Ngaishi, to open the debate for us.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The Deputy Minister, I know that should be here. We're having a meeting with one stakeholder. The Honorable Chairperson and members of the Select Committee on Trade and Industry, the Economic Development, Tourism, Employment and Labor, the leadership of organized labor, organized business, and community organizations, the DG and the senior management of the department, the members of the media, the honored guests, and members of the public. As I'm addressing the National Council of Provinces, it is appropriate that I make the following observations. Although employment and labor is a national department of government with no concurrent powers with provinces, nonetheless, it has a truly national footprint across all provinces and localities. The department has 9 provincial offices, 126 labor centers, 25 satellite offices, and 467 visiting points. Those are part-time offices. To this, we will add 10 specialized youth centers over the next 2 years. Indeed, we launched the first of these here in Cape Town yesterday. Very exciting, buzzing with the young people. They were doing everything there, applying for jobs and so on. This means that the staff establishment of the department, some 6,000, is spread proportionally across the provinces and localities to promote access at the point of delivery. We are going to give you the details later as members so that you are able to visit those which are closer to your constituencies. This also means that the Public Employment Services, Inspection and Enforcement Services, Unemployment Insurance Fund and the Compensation Fund claims are all decentralized across the provinces and localities. That also means that the resources in the form of payments filter down to the base. Indeed, Honorable Chairperson, we have allocated 54% of the overall budget of the department, amounting to nearly 1.2 billion rand for our provincial operations, because we have to deal with the ground. Honorable members will ask the question, What are the implications of the reconfiguration and the renaming of the department? Clearly, this reflects that the priority for this sixth administration is jobs and jobs and jobs. The renaming and the reconfiguration of the department reflects the refocusing from purely labor regulation and labor relations to the transformation of the labor market, employment and conditions of employment. We cannot achieve this alone. We continue to depend on the private sector to propel employment. That's why the President's investment drive is so important. So let me share with you our thinking on the role of the reconfigured department. First, where we can, we will leverage the resources of the department and of our entities, which are our labor market instruments. That's the UIF, the Unemployment Insurance Fund, and the CF, the Compensation Fund, to preserve jobs and to invest in job-creating initiatives. Therefore, colleagues must remember that a lot of the tools or market instruments are seated with the different departments, but we do have these two major tools which we can be able to leverage. Second, as the department, we provide coordination and seek to collaborate and align our efforts with other departments and agencies, both to create the jobs and to ensure that our people get skills required in the marketplace. This is very important, the issue of coordination and collaboration, because you have a lot of the initiatives in the different departments, sometimes not talking to each other. So that's one of our responsibilities now. Third, we intensify efforts to strengthen the labor market through the variety of tools at our disposal and in line with the vision of the department. And I quote, strive for a labor market conducive for investment, economic growth, employment, and decent work. This must include doing away with the red tape. One of the problems in government is the red tape. A red tape where you have a submission going from a director up to the DG just for some minor approval. We will have to do away with those red tapes because they are frustrating our people. However, it does not mean when we do away with red tapes, we must reduce the workers' rights as proposed by some opposition parties who argue that we have to talk about labor market flexibility and so on, which constantly exaggerates a perception of the supposed rigidity of the labor market. Indeed, research indicates that there's a high level of relocation and easy movement of labor between firms. In the current situation of deep systemic unemployment and slow growth, government has to use its active labor market policies to improve access to jobs and skills. Let's go to the specifics. Our Public Employment Services branch has been allocated 611 million, that's 611 million rand, to drive the implementation of these active labor market policies, including providing free career counseling, retraining and upskilling, job placing, and providing subsidies to support workers with disabilities in the employment. And this includes, honorable members, 13 factories under the Supported Employment Enterprises program, producing high-quality furniture and linen, and they need to be supported by all government structures as well as the private sector. As we speak, Chairperson, the former Minister of Health had already contracted those for the distribution of linen into a number of hospitals, which is by the disabled people. They are also doing some furniture. And I think the honorable members must start arguing now that their furniture must be ordered from those people. so that we can be able to uplift those people. In this financial year, we will also ensure that our entrenched labor market tools, mainly as I've mentioned, the UIF, strengthen our labor activation program to focus on the following: vocational and remedial training of the unemployed, programs for the youth in transition from school to work, including apprenticeship, and some 130,000 learnerships over 3 years. Also, subsidized targeted measures to provide employment, including hiring subsidies paid to private sector employers and assistance to the unemployed persons who wish to start their own businesses. As part of the transformation, funds have been allocated to the three new black asset management companies. No more now that they must just give to only white management companies. We are now giving to black asset management companies. To achieve, yes, it depends how many do you have. If you do your statistics, you will know what we're talking about. To achieve this, the UIF has budgeted 7.9 billion rands over the next 3 years. The focus is to fund jobs, not just training. We have to also go beyond training. The department will form partnerships with the employers and training institutions, particularly in collaboration with the Department of Higher Education and Training, to address the future skills needs of the labor market. The President has said we must train the youth for the digital jobs, which are expected to be created in the wake of the fourth industrial revolution. And our argument is that the fourth industrial revolution should not just be technicist, should not just be technical. It means it must talk about the human beings. It must have also the human face. The President has flagged the need for the social dialogue and social compact. NEDLAC is critical to this. The department will consult with all social partners to review the constitution of the council to promote greater inclusivity. Governance challenges at NEDLAC, which resulted in the disciplinary processes against senior officials, are being firmly addressed. Honorable Chairperson, in October 2018, the Presidential Job Summit was convened by NEDLAC. Of the 77 commitments made, 70% are on track for implementation. I should mention that, in contrast to the previous summits, a monitoring and evaluation tool was put in place to track the outcomes. Already, these interventions have resulted in saving jobs through the training layoff scheme and via a sizable investment from the UIF's High Social Impact Fund. 1.2 billion rand was invested in EDCOM, preventing the loss of 40,000 direct and upstream jobs. And I need to mention that the investment comes with very strict conditions to guarantee the investment capital and a sustainable turnaround in the business. Honorable Chairperson, it is worth noting that the Ministers of Employment and Labor in the SADC region have agreed to develop a regional labor migration policy by the end of 2019. In turn, the department will finalize a new national migration and employment policy in consultation with all the social partners. And I think this is an issue which we must confront. If you can see what happened with the banning of the trucks in Durban, some of the companies had employed 100% foreign nationals as drivers. You can see the trend is going into agriculture. The trend is there in some other sectors, but what is even disturbing, even in retail now, the employers are preferring the foreign nationals. But the motive is very simple, to exploit the cheap labor. That's the motive, just to exploit the vulnerable workers who are very desperate. And we will have to handle that matter in a sensitive way, especially that we are talking about the intra-African trade. We'll have to talk about that properly. Honorable Chairperson, We preserve jobs by improving productivity and competitiveness of our businesses. Productivity South Africa, an entity of the department, has done sterling work in assisting the SMMEs through its turnaround solution program. The department is currently reviewing the funding model so that Productivity South Africa can expand its work. Chairperson, a stable labor market is necessary for creating a conducive environment for investment. Recent amendments to the Labor Relations Act address strikes or lockouts that are intractable and violent. These provided for the establishment of an advisory arbitration. The CCMA is responsible for implementing these measures. Imagine, honorable members, somebody demanding a salary of 16,000 for the workers who are earning 5,000 and take them for 5 months and take them back without anything, having lost everything. Is that responsible? Can we allow that? So this year marks 22 years of the existence of CCMA and saw the enactment of the long-awaited National Minimum Wage, the Minimum Wage Act, and the Employment Law Amendments, expanding the jurisdiction of the CCMA to provide the protection of the most vulnerable workers. Honorable Chairperson, some 194,000 cases were referred to the CCMA during the 2018-19 compared to the 187 referrals in 2017-18. The large caseload is indicative of the failure by both business and labor to moderate workplace conflict. Nevertheless, this situation continues to serve a critical role in stabilizing the labor relations. The national minimum wage was initially set at 20 Rand per hour. This is not enough to lift the people out of poverty, but it is an important start, an indication, or indications are that some 6 million workers will benefit. Inspections to date indicate 93% of the employers are paying the prescribed rate. Prophecies that wholesale retrenchment would follow the introduction of the minimum wage were not borne out. As an expected massive spike in the CCMA cases has not occurred. By the end of September, the National Minimum Wage Commission will publish research into the impact of the changes on employment, poverty levels, and wage differentials. Honorable Chairperson, in pursuit of the social justice and transformed labor market, the department published the Employment Equity Amendment Bill for public comment. The 2018 Employment Equity Report reflects that at the top and senior management levels, women only account for 23.5% and 34% respectively, whereas persons with disabilities remained at 1% across the sectors of the economy. The EE Amendment Bill will be prioritized for tabling in Parliament to regulate the setting of the sector-specific employment targets to address the gross underrepresentation of blacks, women, and persons with disabilities. In addition, it will also ensure that the Employment Equity Certificate of Compliance becomes a precondition for access to state contracts. 1.2 billion rand has been budgeted for this program. Despite carrying out 167,000 inspections during the current year, we don't have adequate numbers of inspectors to reach its 167,000 inspectors. They are not enough to reach every workplace. We rely on the activism of the shop stewards and the public to be our eyes and ears, as well as the goodwill of the responsible corporate citizen. Remember, we have 1.7 registered employers. Therefore, we can't even have a quota of the inspectors to be able to cover a quarter of that number, which means we won't be in every workplace, but we will rely on the trade union movement, on the responsible corporate citizens, and on the responsible employers. During the course of this financial year, we'll be adding 200 inspectors to the current team that is working to ensure implementation of the national minimum wage. With the Deputy Minister and the DM, we will be launching a blitz of inspections in the near future. Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee are also welcome to join us when we are launching this. Our inspection and enforcement services, we will give you a program. Our inspection and enforcement services branch has been allocated a budget of 6 to 8 million for the current financial year. And Chairperson, I cannot overemphasize the importance of social protection in our fight against poverty. As part of the government entrenched labor market policy, the UIF mitigates the effects of retrenchments. And recent amendments to the Unemployment Insurance Funds Act will expand the coverage and the period for the UIF beneficiaries from different industries such as domestic workers, interns, and those in the learnership. There will be an increase in the income replacement rate for the maternity benefits to 66%. We'll extend a contributor's entitlement to benefit under certain circumstances. And there will also be that finance employment services. The average turnout time of the payment of the UIF claims has been shortened from 10 to 7 days. So the UIF contributes to fighting poverty and unemployment in that 20% of the Social Responsibility Investment Fund is invested in that high-impact job creation businesses, in those ventures and in all sectors and provinces. To date, almost 17 billion has been allocated to this fund for investment, which has in turn created 23,442 jobs. And Honorable Chairperson, the recent ILO conference resolved that occupational health and safety.
Honorable Minister, we'll give you 1 minute or so to.
Thank you, Chairperson. The recent ILO conference resolved that the occupational health and safety be elevated to a fundamental principle and right. And let me mention the good work done by the media in exposing the non-compliance and failure to report accidents by employers. My department is processing the compensation claims of the injured persons concerned. Earlier this year, we launched a campaign to encourage those who have suffered the workplace accidents or diseases and where claims were not processed to report this to our labor centers. Furthermore, during this year, we will appoint additional 500 occupational health and safety officers. And Chairperson, we have worked tirelessly to restructure the compensation fund, and there have been real improvements. We will soon present to this House amendments to the compensation for occupational injuries and diseases.
Honorable Minister, your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Our next speaker will be Honorable Khai. You don't know that lady. Who is doing the time here?
Honorable Deputy Chairperson, honorable members, honorable Minister of Employment and Labor, special delegates, Director General and senior managers, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans. 64 years ago, the Freedom Charter was consolidated and subsequently adopted in Cape Town by the Congress of the People. Hitherto, the Lodestar still forms the basis of ANC policy orientation. It continues to shape the form and content of our resolution. It was a resolution of this watershed Congress which adopted the clauses that there shall be work and security. Upon assuming power in 1994, the ANC-led government has introduced legislation to enhance stability in labor market. The Department of Labor has played a leading role in shaping market and labor relations. The promotion of labor standards and rights at the workplace is core to the mandate of the department. The mandate advances the Freedom Charter's intent when it says, all workers shall be free to form trade unions, to elect their officers, and to make wage agreements with their employers. This vote advances the interests of the National Development Plan as an ANC policy imperative, and the allocation contained in the vote contribute to the pivotal role of the department in increasing workplace inspections to promote a healthy working environment in the workplace and enhancing labor relations by using labor forums such as NEDLAC. The President's clarion call in the State of the Nation address places emphasis on encouraging government, business, and labor to form a social compact to deal with the challenges of the nation. The ANC-led government has made huge progress in ensuring that the rights of workers enshrined in the Constitution are entrenched, whilst the balance of ensuring business interests are equally protected. The policy achievement of the ANC has, since democracy, shaped legislation and regulated workplace. The Labor Relations Act of 1995, as amended, was and remains internationally one of the best pieces of legislation to regulate relations between employers and employees. It was ANC 2014 manifesto which outlined the need to investigate modalities to introduce a minimum wage as a key mechanism to reduce income inequality. The outcome 4 of the medium-term strategy framework emphasizing on creating decent work through inclusive growth. The national minimum wage is a major contribution towards reducing income inequality and poverty. The budget vote has allocated an amount of 114.1 million for the National Minimum Wage Commission, which are expected to conclude research on economic impact of the minimum wage on employment, poverty, inequality, and wage differentials. The Commission will evaluate and review impact of the Act on improving the lives of our people, report back, and recommend to the Minister on a way forward on the future increase. I agree with you, Honorable Minister. Safety in the workplace remains a concern for the ANC. The union-led fight, supported by ANC-led government legislation, has sought over the past years to deal with the incident of negligence and unsafe working conditions at the workplace. The amended Occupation, Health and Safety Act of 1993 will enable the inspectors to administer fines on the employers who do not comply with safety regulation and instruct workers to work under hazardous conditions. Due to fewer workplace inspectors, the number of workplaces that are not visited annually has risen. The vote of funds allocates 172.6 million to increase the number of inspectors so as to enforce compliance under the sub-program of compliance, monitoring, and enforcement. I agree again with you, Honorable Minister, that the organized labor unions are critical in defending the rights of workers, and the ANC encourages organized labor to be at the forefront of exerting pressure on employers to comply with safety standards. To ensure fair labor practices and provide justice, an increase of 107.1 million over the medium-term expenditure framework for the Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration has been allocated to ensure and accelerate the addressing caseloads and provide training to commissioners and assessors. The vote provides for entities such as Compensation Fund to administer compensation for occupation injuries and diseases. The fund has made significant improvement over the years and dealt with adjudication of 90% of registered claims within 30 days. This is remarkable considering the backlog the entity has had in the past. The timeous compensation of injured workers assists families to be sustained during this period. The budget allocates increases of 1.3 billion for the compensation of employees. The improvement in the ITC system has led to major improvement in handling of claims. It is estimated that the turnaround time of claims of 30 days will shrink to 20 days by 2021-2022 financial year. Unemployment Insurance Fund plays a vital role in providing social security in the country and contributes as a short-term unemployment insurance. The fund has been budgeted 1 billion for the training of beneficiaries to assist companies in rather reskilling their workers for retention. The Unemployment Insurance Fund estimates job retention of about 10,000 jobs and increasing jobs through an increase in administration personnel. The ANC's 54th National Policy Conference in 2017 endorsed creating decent work as a primary focus of economic policy. The idea of decent work underpins work as a source of human dignity, family stability, and economic growth. The National Development Plan emphasizing decent work as the ability to uplift social standard of living and living condition of an individual. The vote has been successful to outline and fund the inspection of implementation and enforcing the minimum wage on employers. This will assist in closing wage gap and reduce inequalities in households. The vote is weighed towards inspection and dealing with complaints, and whilst this will minimize the hazardous working environment, it will also contribute employment through increasing the number of inspectors. We support this budget vote. Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable High, Honorable Boshoff.
Honourable Chairperson, honourable members, fellow South Africans, Minister, the time for talk and lip service is over. The time has come for you and your government to put action to words. You only need to look at the ravaged economy, which is evident everywhere, to understand and feel the dilemma of our unemployed. Looking at the GDP of the first quarter of this year, that dropped by a mammoth 3.2%, it is impossible, really impossible, for you to not see the real state of the labour market and the continuous increase in unemployment. Currently, more than 50% of South Africans are living in poverty. Looking at the unemployment statistics, government will have to move away from hosting job and investment summits and move towards adopting a summit strategy on how South Africa and its employers will go about adapting to the constant changing demands of our labour market. Government can no longer raise the hopes of our job seekers through these summits, but must offer solutions for real problems such as a slow-growing economy and an unskilled and uneducated workforce. One thing that is abundantly clear is that our labour laws and regulatory authority are harsh, complex, and to a great extent invasively excluding millions of South Africans from accessing employment opportunities. Government should ensure that labour regulations go hand in hand with an economic policy that stimulates growth. Minister, you say you are going to take the necessary steps to ensure that inspections and enforcement services are adequately resourced. Minister, you have to tell us how and when. At the end of the Fifth Parliament, we saw amendments to the Unemployment Insurance Fund, with the President trumpeting the paternity leave and other extensions to this legislation as listen to this, a breakthrough. But unfortunately, it has left a bitter taste in the mouths of many fathers. Honourable Minister, your departmental officials were, and listen to this, unable to roll out a simple legislation, as they had not done the administration and paperwork in this regard. 7 months down the line, and South Africans can still not claim paternity leave. Totally unacceptable. Government now also needs to show the 27.6% or plus minus 10 million unemployed South Africans how they plan on creating employment through inclusive economic growth, what programs are in place to ensure a skilled and workable workforce is established, and how to create a better South Africa, a better Africa, and a better world. Standing here today, I can state that currently our manufacturing industries, together with our mining industries, are in decline, causing more and more employees to become a statistical figure. The majority of the unemployed in these industries are those, unfortunately, in the lower income bracket who do not have the relevant qualifications to apply for other employment, do not have the means to further educate themselves, or, Minister, have just given up looking for a job. Honourable Chair, if one compares a country like Germany with an unemployment rate of only 3.1%, with South Africa standing at 27.6%, that overwhelmingly includes half of its youth, with, according to the World Economic Forum's 2014 Global Risk Report, South Africa has one of the highest unemployment rates for youth between the ages of 15 and 24. This, Minister, could only be ascribed to the current education system, which is failing thousands of our learners every single year. Education, as Tata Madiba said, no country can develop unless its citizens are educated. Having been given one of the highest dividends of the national budget, education remains a failure, with a high rate of dropouts, repetitions, and the majority of our learners being progressed without gaining appropriate knowledge and skills required to further their studies and being able to enter the labour market. We stand, Minister, on the verge of the fourth industrial revolution, which in all essence is going to add to the unemployment rate, as many new projects are designed around automation and robots, artificial intelligence, and 3D printers, which have astounding capabilities and will most definitely keep the number of workers currently at a much lower scale than 5 years ago. Once again, it is therefore imperative that coordination and collaboration takes place between the Department of Employment and Labour with other departments like basic education, higher education, and science and technology to ensure that our learners are skilled in this field to remain competitive in the jobs market. Minister, the question you have to ask yourself is whether South Africa is ready for the impact of the fourth industrial revolution and what the impact on the labour market will be if there is going to be impact, which I can say will definitely have an impact, and what government will do to ensure that all platforms in respect of economic growth are addressed with action plans and implementation dates in place. Honourable Chair, the Minister spoke of the amendments to the minimum wage bill, but he did not mention a word on the public sector wage bill, which amounts to over 500 billion rand, and which is threatening South Africa's financial situation. The spending on the public service is hampering our economic growth and our job creation. It is a fact that ordinary South Africans who are struggling to make ends meet are the ones who will be hit the hardest, and you cannot deny it, as they will have to fork out even more on an above inflation public sector wage agreement. We must ask ourselves, in light of this, how many more jobs could have been created had we not been forced to agree to this above-inflation public sector wage agreement? We all know that South Africa is in dire need of more police on our streets, nurses in our hospitals, and teachers in our schools. Apart from the above, the 2016-17 financial year, this department had irregular expenditure of plus minus 257 million and fruitless and wasteful expenditure of plus minus 129 million, which could have been utilized in creating more jobs for our millions of unemployed. With due respect, Minister, what remedial action has been taken to address this? I have seen nothing. For the past 5 years, calls have been made by the Auditor General to implement remedial action. But alas, fellow South Africans, individuals are eventually only suspended and kept on full pay with no criminal charges being laid. Honourable Chair, in 2018, when President Ramaphosa was elected as the President of South Africa, we all greeted the new dawn and the Ramaphoria with euphoria, experiencing the surge on the rand and government bonds, coupled with him explaining in detail the reform strategies he would put in place, like reforming the struggling economy, cracking down on corruption, and the replacement of non-performing cabinet ministers. But alas, so far, it has been lip service and will, in all probability, remain as such. The President's State of the Nation address saw many feel-good spending pledges, but again, no detail on the funding is forthcoming. Honourable Chair, another point of discussion is the appointment of the Minister Nxesi, to the Department of Employment and Labour as a former leader of the main teachers' union. Honourable Nxesi had been criticised, yes, Minister, you were, for defending irregular government expenditures on Zuma's private home, the infamous Nkandla, whilst he was the Public Works Minister. A union leader, Honourable Chair, is unlikely to ease labour laws to make it easier to do business. It would bode this department well to look towards the Western Cape to understand the dynamics of bringing about change in respect of the unemployment rate. The DA-led Western Cape is the province with the lowest unemployment rate in the country. Yes, in the country, you can say what you like. Since the third quarter of 2009, the Western Cape has created over 500,000 jobs, and 2.52 million people in this province can now say they have a job. It's a fact. We and labour and employment's got nothing to do with land. Despite experience one of the worst droughts on record,
Order, members.
the Western Cape was able to create 29,000 jobs during the 2018-19 financial year. This Honourable Chair needs to be applauded. Whether you like it or not, you have to face the facts. According to the Democratic Alliance Economic Plan, South Africa will succeed in bringing about economic freedom, economic fairness, and opportunities if we focus all our efforts on enabling employers to create employment. In conclusion, Honourable Chair, we cannot deny that we are in deep economic trouble, and no country, Honourable Minister, no country can create jobs without economic growth. We can no longer expect ordinary citizens to foot the bill for government's continuous failures. The call is therefore upon you, Honourable Minister, and your department to provide clarity on your intervention plans, coupled with implementation dates and budgetary requirements, to be able to show ordinary South Africans that you are serious about their future and the future of generations to come. And before I leave the podium, I've got 12 seconds. Honourable Corny, speak about the land when it's your turn. Thank you.
Honorable Matebula. Honorable Matebula.
Na khensa mutshamaxitulu xo sungula ni rhandza ku xeweta maAfrika-Dzonga etindhawini hinkwato laha va nga yingisela va ri kona. Minister, this government and this department has no plan on how to create jobs for the people of South Africa. And because of this, we are facing a high employment rate in South Africa. Currently, unemployment standard is at 27.6%, but the expanded unemployment rate is shed light on the levels of unemployment rate where we are currently facing. In the last quarterly labor force survey that was released by the Statistics South Africa, it revealed that the expanded unemployment rate is at 38%, which 34.9% are men and 41.5% which are women. Minister, in this country, we have a high, women we are at 2 men, but when it comes to employment, men are the ones who are employed more than women. So you must fix this, Minister. Currently, the expanded unemployment rate for those between the age of 25 and 34 years is at 44%. Many of these young people are skilled and qualified, but they are sitting at home. The EFF election manifesto has placed strategic importance of the employment of women and youth in particular. Through the country, workers, particularly black workers, are abused and exploited by white monopoly capital, and they are being failed by this department. Just this year, in Mopani, Limpopo, hundreds of farm workers of Litaba Estate Citrus Farm were fired for because they refused to accept a monthly salary of 1,000. I think, Minister, it's time for you to visit that side of Mopani, because most of the farmers there are exploiting more our people there. So I think it's time for you to go and do a site visit in that area. But if it were not of the EFF in Limpopo, this matter would not have been resolved. But this is the responsibility of your department. Minister, at Ansela Mittal in Sidibeng, workers are not being paid on time, and some outsourced contract workers are paid as little as 2,650. The 2,650 is illegal and even below President Ramaphosa if ill-convinced and misguided 3,500 national minimum wage. A human being cannot be expected to live in dignity and provided for the family with such low minimum wage. We have already seen this happen where these workers have been injured and they are forced out of work without any form of compensation. This is a direct consequence of outsourcing, and it takes a legal responsibility away from employers with a legal loophole. Minister, we must be honest with ourselves when we look at the issue of outsourcing, because outsourcing is the perpetuation and further entrenchment of colonial system of economic exploitation, which relied on the supply of cheap black migrant labor. Since 1994, the ANC has done nothing with dismantling this economic system of exploitation. As we see throughout the country, security guards and cleaners working at the airport managed by ICASA are outsourced to companies that are continuing with the practice of cheap labor. Workers at UNISA were employed in fixed-term contracts through labor brokers for more than a decade. Workers at Pick and Pay, ShopRite, Spar are employed as contract workers through labor brokers. Here in Parliament, cleaners who clean after ministers and deputy ministers are paid through labor brokers as a result of outsourced workers. This is the violation of the law, as the Constitution Court ruled that workers placed by labor brokers are automatically become permanent employee after 3 months. The Department of Labor has no capacity to enforce any of the labor laws meant to protect workers. And Minister, you must be made aware, if you don't know, that the labor inspectors employed by your department are not doing their job. When they go to farm, factories, call centers, and other places of employment where workers' rights are being violated, these inspectors are easily bribed and workers continue to be exploited. Your department needs to do something about this and ensure that labor inspectors do not get seduced by bosses at the expense of our people. We do not believe in the current minister, as his track record in government is poor, and whenever he has been, things have either stayed at the same, they have not gotten worse. Minister, you have placed at the head of the department that is expected to find solution to the unemployment crisis, something the president himself has no solution. According to the NDP, by 2020, which is next year, we were meant to have reduced unemployment rate to 14%. Currently, it's at 27%. According to the NDP, 11 million jobs were meant to be created in 20 years. Currently, we are sitting at 3 million. The reason I bring this up is because the NDP itself is one of the main reasons why our unemployment rate level are the way they are. Because as long as the ANC government is committed to neoliberal economic and unemployment will only increase. Despite the job summit held by the president with business leaders, they promised us that they will create 200 jobs. We continue to see the private sector shedding jobs and sending our people back to poverty. Like Sibanye Stillwater, that is getting rid of 3,500 workers. Multi-Choice, that is getting rid of 2,000 workers. Standard Bank, that is getting rid of 1,200 workers. And many other like PCC Cement and Tico Blackstar Group. The private sector has never and will never have the interest of South Africa at heart. It's only interested in profit. That is why they are finding so many people reliable on creating jobs. The state must play a direct role in creating jobs, firstly by driving rapid and expansion of our SOEs, but only by also government sourcing workers to provide service. This will decrease and create quality jobs. You have just look at what Herman Mashaba has done in Joburg to get an idea of what I'm talking about, as the city is currently in the process of insourcing boss, cleaners, and securities. Those who listen to our policies like Herman Mashaba have changed the lives of thousands of workers who were the victims of abuse, exploitation by labor brokers. They have also learned that it makes a financial sense. Over and above the need to create new jobs, we need to protect existing jobs and ensure that jobs pay workers in a living minimum wage. That is why your department must consider developing a job protection bill, which will protect workers from being the first casualties of bad management decisions at these companies. The Minimum Wage Act also must be revised, and the principle must be that no workers anywhere in South Africa should ever earn less than 4,500 a month. The current minimum wage of 3,500 is low, and there are too many exceptions. There is no logical reason why farm workers should earn less than other workers. So why has an expert iron been made for farm workers? It is to continue pleasing white capital. In the beginning of your speech, Minister, I heard you saying that media is doing a great job. Today, as I'm standing here, I challenge media to even visit farms and reveal what is happening there. Hina tani vandla ra EFF minister ra hiri a hi pfumelelani na yona budget leyi na cancel.
Thank you, Honorable Matebula. Point of order.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. My point of order is that Honorable Matebula's speech was the first speech in this house this afternoon. Thank you.
So is it an order? Is it an order? I believe you. Can we then have, the next speaker will be Honorable Kenny Muimang Musimane Khape.
Thank you.
Order, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. Members of the National Council of Province, the Minister of Labour and Employment, the table led by the Secretary, Advocate Pindela. Indeed, allow me to take this opportunity to greet you in the name of the African National Congress. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, on Tuesday, the Select Committee had an opportunity to engage with the Minister and the team, particularly with the view to ensure that we get an understanding in terms of what are the imperatives of a reconfigured department. And lately so, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, the entry point from the Minister was that it is important that as a select committee, we need to understand the nature of our South African economy. And indeed, the challenges that we have raised confirm what the Minister has raised to say. Our challenge is structural in nature. And it is important to also note that what the Minister raised confirmed what one of our veterans, the former Member of Parliament, Ben Turok, said in terms of the need to make a review of our macroeconomic policy. But also in saying that, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, he was in tandem with what one of the authors, Tate Makhetla, has said in terms of saying that indeed the structuralism approach in the intervention of our economy is an imperative, so that we are then able to ensure that we confront the structure of production, the structure of distribution, the structure of ownership, and the structure of control, and also mitigate the devastating impact of the spatial structure of our economy, which of course worsen the situation of the vulnerables. Secondly, I think it is important, Deputy Chairperson, to also note that, correctly so, as pointed out, today, this year we celebrate the 24th anniversary of the enactment and the adoption of the Labour Relations Act. And indeed, I think it's only correct that because this Labour Relations Act was passed under the stewardship and the presidency of our icon, Ray Mandela, it is only correct that, given the fact that this month is the month of Mandela's birthday, we also pay tribute to the sterling work that he has done. Correctly so, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, also in our interaction with the department, as a starting point also, the Honorable Minister made reference as an entry point of the State of the Nation address that was delivered by President Cyril Ramaphosa, where he was able to reiterate the ANC's priorities as reflected in the 2017 54th National Conference and also our election manifesto, which correctly put the labor and job creation as an integral pillar of our attempt to deal with the legacy of apartheid colonialism. Critical to that pronouncement by the minister is that at the center of our national agenda is the creation of jobs, especially for the young people and the rural women. More so, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, the emphasis was also on inviting us to be able to ensure that we implement the scraping of experience as a requirement for entry-level jobs in the public service, because it creates an opportunity for our young people to be able to have access to the job opportunities. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, it is important also to outline the fact that we agree that the policy orientation of the vote as outlined by the Deputy Minister and the team reiterated those commitments. And at the center of that was, as repeated also by the Minister in this House, Public Employment Program, which is designed to promote an efficient, developmental and integrated use of job opportunities and work experience. And indeed, we are going to invite the Honorable Minister, because of the number of populations that we have in the province, to use our province as a pilot to send a message that indeed job eradication is possible. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, it is important also to note that the challenges of the labor market, grappling with an ever more complex range of issues, requires very specific responses, precisely by virtue of the fact that I reiterated that our problems are structural in nature. These matters are not new and have been raised before by both labor, the government, and business. And there is a commitment to respond to directives arising from these forums, which is specifically designed to stimulate the economy and create jobs. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, the complexity of shift in occupational groups, largely due to ever-increasing mechanism and displacement of employees across sectors, has led the ANC government to come up with specific proposals. And therefore, as a result thereof, we appreciate the effort as outlined by the Deputy Minister in terms of ensuring that we register 700 work seekers on an employment service database, mindful of the fact that the level of unemployment is very high. But of course also, we take note, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, that work experience and skills acquired through these public employment programs improve a person's employability. And also it is important also to note that the SONA 2019 put an emphasis on the need to ensure that we diminish unemployment rate. And therefore, we want to confront the stats released by the State SA to ensure that we are able to confront the 27.6% of unemployment. Therefore, we appreciate the public employment program, which is allocated as raised by the Minister 23.3 million to be able to address this scourge, but also a further 402.1 million, which is designed also as a sub-program for counseling and placement. And also we therefore appreciate that the vote allocation will enable an increase in support to work seekers, greater access to labor market, and also an increase in self-service station. Moreover, the number of interventions to revive and stimulate growth has been critical with the Youth Employment Summit, various Presidential Summit and Presidential 2018 Stimulus Package and Investment Conference. These are making a difference. And therefore it is important also, Deputy Chairperson, that the effort outlined by the Minister is geared towards boosting economic growth, which is critical in job creation, but we are also dealing with unemployment and reduced inequality. The vote comes at the backdrop of economic contraction and the inability of the job market to absorb high demands of job seekers. And therefore, it is important that we appreciate the effort by the department, which also as a select committee will also ensure that we hold them accountable to ensure that the public employment services are directly linked to the outcome 5 of the medium-term strategic framework. Indeed, our National Development Plan goals, which advocates the development of a skilled and capable workforce to support inclusive growth path, must succeed, and this vote must assist in this regard. In conclusion, this vote is in line with economic priorities of the country, job creation, and reducing of inequality and upskilling our nation. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson.
I just wanted to call you out when you said in conclusion. The next speaker will be Honorable Dutoy of the Freedom Front Plus.
Honorable Chair, Ministers and Honorable Members, opportunities are usually disguised as hard work, so most people don't recognize it. This is a quote by Ann Landers. We need to work hard to break welfare dependency and get our young people ready for the labor market. We need businesses to give them opportunities. The Minister reaffirmed that the priority of the Sixth Administration is jobs. He furthermore confirmed that the government cannot do this alone and needs the investment of the private sector to propel employment. One would therefore expect that considerable effort would be made to ensure stimulation of the economy, the creation of favorable conditions to ensure the sustainability of small and medium businesses. And it's after all these businesses who should be instrumental to create new jobs. We say this because government cannot and should not be the largest employer in South Africa. Through you, Chair, Minister, referring to your speech on the budget vote, the focus seems to be placed on transformation in the labor market, employment and conditions of employment, instead of broadening the scope of employment and job creation. Die VF+ is van mening dat 'n holistiese benadering gevolg moet word om werksgeleenthede en finansiële vooruitgang te verseker. Transformasieteikens wat swart ekonomiese bemagtiging moet uit die regeringsbeleid en wetgewing verwyder word. Dit sal die private sektor aanmoedig om die beste moontlike personeel aan te stel, sodat ekonomiese groei bevorder kan word. Youth unemployment is at an all-time high. According to Stats SA, the unemployment rate among the youth between the ages of 15 and 24 is 55.2%, and among graduates, it's 31%. Factors which are contributing to unemployment is black economic empowerment and affirmative action. These policies are counterproductive to the economic...
Sorry, Honourable Member, there is a point of order.
Sorry, Chair, this is my maiden speech. I'm allowed to convey my speech.
All of us now is maiden. But it's fine. Kone, when you sit down and allow the member to continue, you will just have your order after you have completed.
Thank you, Chair.
Please
These policies are counterproductive to economical growth of businesses and have proven to be ineffective as only select few
Honourable
benefit.
Lon, can you just give us a moment? Point of order, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. A point of order is a point of order within the rules
Please,
of the NCO.
it's fine. We have consulted with, we are giving you
When
your
we
point
don't
of order.
disturb
We are giving you your point of
maiden
order. Can you
speeches,
continue?
it's when somebody is not dramatic. But when somebody becomes dramatic, we get to disturb.
Honourable Kone, what is your point of order?
My point of order is that, Chairperson, is the speaker on the podium referring to the youth that they are exploiting in their farms and paying them with alcohol? Is he referring to that kind of unemployment? Because that alone is unemployment. You can't hire somebody and pay them with alcohol
Kone,
and then say
we've listened
that
to
is
you. I'm
employment.
not
Thank you
asking
very
a
much.
question. It's no point of order. Can you continue?
Thank you, Chair. The Freedom Front Plus is convinced that unemployment can only be curtailed if government policies are amended to create an environment that is conducive to job creation for all South Africans. It's an inconceivable fact that in this day and age, race is being used as a measure to discriminate against young, willing and able-seeking job seekers who find themselves barred from the job market. Agbare voorsitter, dit wil voorkom of die fokus eerder op die aanstelling van beamptes geplaas word wat as waghonde oor werkgewers moet optree, met die stille wete dat afleggings kan toeneem as gevolg van ekonomiese druk wat onder meer deur rigiede arbeidswetgewing soos die nasionale minimumloonwet veroorsaak word.
Jammer, agbare de Tooi, daar is 'n punt van orde. Agbare lid,
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
agbare lid.
Now, Chairperson, I just wanted to ask the member if he's related to John Foster. They look alike.
I can really not hear what you are saying.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Now, Speaker, I wanted to ask the honorable member if he's related to John Foster. They look alike.
Order, can we continue?
Thank you, Chair. Honourable Minister, through you, Chair, you claim that there has not been wholesale retrenchments following the introduction of the National Minimum Wage Act. Now, the National Minimum Wage Act has been implemented effectively as from the 1st of January 2019. We are yet to see the effect of the minimum wage of unemployment. What is certain is that employment has declined by 237,000 and unemployment has increased by
I'm
62,000.
sorry, Honorable de Tooi, can we just get the point of order, please? Honorable de Tooi, can you please take your seat? Able to take a question.
Honourable Chair, I'm busy with a speech. I won't be taking questions at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you. You may continue.
Thank you, Chair. These stats are according to Stats SA. While there has been a gradual increase in the unemployment rate over the past decade, the decline in formal employment is the biggest year-on-year job loss in recent times. The latest statistics indicate that legislation may well have reduced employment prospects in entry-level positions. The fact of the matter is that unless there is significant economic growth, the cost of labor for small and medium-sized businesses becomes too high to bear and will leave employers with one of three alternatives. Number one, seek alternatives for low-skilled labor and make use of technology. Two, do the work themselves. Or three, close business as a last alternative and invest in other countries with less restrictive labor legislation for better economic prospects. The Freedom Front Plus has got a five-point plan that we have to offer with regards to this. Trade unions' power must be restricted, and any other irresponsible actions that lead to the loss of jobs must be prevented and sanctioned by legislation. Honourable Chair, in the words of David Bly, striving for success without hard work is like trying to harvest with not having planted. Let's plant seeds of possibilities, the seeds of opportunities. Let's create an environment of hope for an inclusive South Africa where every hard-working citizen can reap the fruits of his labour. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable de Tooi. Honorable Lont will be the next speaker. Honorable Lont.
Good afternoon, Honourable Deputy Chairperson, Honourable Members, Honourable Minister, fellow South Africans. Honourable Minister, I gave you credit in our committee earlier this week for already improving on the performance of your predecessor. The fact that you attended a select committee meeting and stayed till the end bodes well for the 6th Parliament, because we didn't have a Labour Minister that did that during the 5th Parliament. The Department of Employment and Labour deserves a minister who takes the position seriously. With the crippling unemployment we currently face in South Africa, Minister, you are the new broom that must sweep up and clean the rebranded ministry. Unfortunately, this new broom was taken out of an old broom cupboard or cabinet. Where you-
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Is there a point of order? Yes, can we take the point of order?
Madam Speaker, ha ke sa utlwisisa next mona ke itshokile nako e telele ne ke kopa gore a go be le batho ba ile gore ba ka kgona go ntlhalosetsa. Yeah. Because ha gona sepe se ke se utlwang since ntse re tswelela batho bana ba bua. Nna ke Motswana ke bua Setswana. Ne ke kopa gore ke lekile gore ke mamele mo Setswana ga seo.
There is a, so if there is, the table will deal with that issue. And in the meantime, can the member continue whilst you deal with the issue of Tswana translation?
Ke channel e feng me go bane nna fela ntwe ke batlang go tseba ke batla go utlwa Setswana sa setho ke gone go utlwa gore ba reng batho ba tsena ba tswa ga go utlwe Setswana kopa Setswana ke le Motswana ke representa Batswana Batswana ba botle ba batletse mona ba mametse ba ba tlo utlwa le nna ke gone gore ha ke bua ke bue
Thank you,
ntse ba utlwa.
Honorable Member. Can you check Channel 9, please? Check Channel 9. Thank you very much. I think we can continue. I heard Tswana here on this channel.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. I do agree, it's important that we can speak each in our own language. En dit moet ook vertaal word in al die ander tale wat ons praat in Suid-Afrika. So I would appreciate if we can fix that. So Minister, you are the new broom that will sweep up and clean this new rebranded ministry. Unfortunately, this new broom was taken out of the old broom cupboard, where you were stored with brooms like Malusi Gigaba and Mvula Mokanyana. Why do I mention your former cupboard colleagues? On Tuesday, you stated, it is in our national interest to deal with corruption. Yet for the past few years, you were part of a corrupt cupboard that swept every scandal, every corrupt activity, every valid criticism under the carpet. So we know that your sweeping powers are there. The question is, will this new broom sweep it under the carpet or clean up? I truly want you to succeed. I truly want our president to succeed. Because if this government do not succeed, our country is heading for disaster. There is currently 10 million unemployed South Africans. You need to be a minister that starts fighting for the 55% of the youth that cannot get into the job market. Honorable Matavula, I want to say well done and commend you on your activism. But I also believe, like many of us, you want a South Africa that works together and go forward. And by making sweeping statements, it's not helping us. I would love to go with you and go to those places where they exploit workers so that we can together address that. But I also want to invite you to come to farms where you see there's brilliant relationships between the farmers and the workers. So I am going to plead, when we speak about issues, let's speak about specifics and not sweeping statements and villainize an entire industry or all people. Honorable Corny, sometimes it's better that people think you do not know the rules, then you stand up and you confirm that you do not know the rules.
There is a point of order. Yes, Honorable Member.
It's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. The member was talking about the minister there without actually even much substantiation, saying that no, he was sweeping things under the carpet, and he's saying it, and he's saying exactly the same thing with the member from the EFF. So what you say? Don't when it referred back to you.
No. Allow me to chair because I'm presiding here, and I will be listening to everyone. If you feel that someone is not, it's whatever you think is speaking, allow us to listen to the person and then we will decide. So it's not a point of order, Honorable Chamberlain. Yes, thank you. You can continue.
Honorable Member, I am always happy to take questions, and I'm going to assume that that was a question. If you want to ask how it was swept under the
Honourable
carpet,
Lord,
I'm busy
I will
with my
tell
speech,
you-
Deputy
I will tell
Chairperson.
you if there is a question. Can you continue with your speech?
Well, Deputy Chair,
Yes,
I'm sure that I
continue
can
with
respond
your
to it,
speech.
and it's on with
Continue
my speech.
with
That's
your
what you do
speech.
as a sweeper, Deputy Chair. I know that you're new in this House and things maybe work differently in the Northern Cape,
Yeah,
but
Suka.
you are allowed to respond to people. So I can also take you
Honourable
together with the
Lord, let us
Honourable Corny
respect one
on a
another
crash
here.
course on the rules,
Let us
because it seems
respect
like you and
one
the Honourable
another here,
Corny do
please.
not know the rules. But yeah, don't touch me on my rules.
Point
Until
of
you
order,
know
Chair.
the rules, Deputy Chairperson, you won't embarrass
point of
yourself
Chair,
by
order,
making
Chair.
rulings.
Honourable Lord, can you allow for Honourable Landsman?
Sit down, Chief. Thank you. On a point of order, Chair, when... Allow me to talk or raise a point of order. Stand up and raise the
Honourable
order.
Landsman,
I'm
but
being
yourself
disturbed.
now, you have requested for a point of order. Why are you listening to other people? Speak to me, please.
Thanks for protection, Chair. Honourable Lund must focus on his speech and not attack you as the Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for your indulgence, but I'm fine. I'm very capable of defending myself. Please, Honourable Lord, continue.
Honourable Landsman, when you stand up and you want to stand on a point of order, you can quote the rule
Honourable
because
Lord,
you're
but
also
you cannot
embarrassing
be all
yourself.
over the place also.
Honourable
You cannot
Deputy
be
Chairperson,
all over
you
the
must ask the
place.
Honourable Advocate Pendela to teach you what the rules are. I'm allowed to say what I want to during
Don't
my
be
speech.
all over
That
the
is the
place.
freedom of speech.
Don't be all over the place.
I can go all over the place, Deputy Chairperson.
I would really, really want Honourable Lord to withdraw the fact that he's implying that I'm stupid. He's implying that. To tell me that I must be taught the rules. You hurt him.
Honourable Deputy Chair, if you cannot apply the rules correctly, then obviously there's some rules that you still need to
But
know.
if you
So
say
if you're going to
someone
make a
should
ruling,
teach me, you imply that I cannot read and I don't understand what I'm just asking you to withdraw the fact that you are saying Advocate Pindela must teach me.
Chairperson,
Please, can you
I
withdraw?
withdraw that
Thank
Advocate
you very
Pendela
much.
will
Then
teach you,
can
and it
continue.
seems like we're on
And
the
you
same.
Why don't you offer to teach me? Why do you say Advocate Pindela must teach me? You are.
Chairperson,
You are out of order.
I withdraw that Advocate Pendela
Thank
would
you.
teach you, and I will, with
all
pleasure,
your life.
take up your offer, and I would come to your office, and as you ask, I will come and teach you the rules
Come
at your
and teach
office.
me so that I can teach you also.
It is
Honourable Labuschagne, Honourable Lord, there is someone that wants to defend you.
Honourable Chair, I really want to refer to the rule that says we should not allow a conversation between the chair and any member. And unfortunately, you put it now there as an example, and you had a whole conversation between you and a speaker, which means that please let us just be consistent in the House. Thank you.
In the next term, you will be the speaker. Can we continue, Honourable Lord?
Honourable Deputy Chair. So yeah, as I say, I will take up your offer, and we can go through the rules together. It is time that we also take the best practices, even from those with different ideological views on board, and implement it. On Tuesday and today, again, you reiterated the importance to remove red tape, which is commendable. And there's certain municipalities, certain provinces that have done a much better job in reducing red tape. In the Western Cape, there's a very good unit that we can learn from and roll it out. And it's not to say, listen, everybody must apply the same, but it's something that will help every single business across South Africa. But if you don't want to listen to provinces, in Parliament, a brilliant private member's bill was introduced last year by a DA colleague of mine, yet it was shot down, not on the merits of the case, but because it came from a different party. And in this NCOP especially, the margins are very, very close. If we're going to start taking our hands and work together to improve, we will make great progress. We have a few suggestions, Honourable Minister. and unfortunately my time is running out, but I'm going to touch just on two of them. There's a jobs bill that will be introduced now, which will focus on two critical areas for economic recovery: foreign investment and small and medium enterprises. We'll expand on that more when we get into the committee. But now, before I finish off, I'm going to reference another quote, slightly amended, one that you used in this House and in committee again. The South African working age population is in a critical condition. They're in the ICU. They're on life support. You will remember the quote, "Minister, I plead and I beg, please, let us take hands across party political lines with all the sectors, public and private, and ensure that we take us out of the critical unit, out of the ICU, stabilize us, and take our country forward." I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Lon. Honorable Danga. Dango.
Honorable Speaker, Minister, the staff from the department, honorable members, thank you for allowing me to share some thoughts with you today. This is the 25-year review of the performance of government conducted by the presidency, reflects that the ANC-led government has safeguarded and entrenched the hard-won rights of workers, including trade union workplace organizing, collective bargaining, equal pay for equal work and value, health and safety, affirmative action, skills development, minimum wages for workers in vulnerable sectors, the right to strike, and the right of peaceful protest. These views find expression in outcome 4 of the medium-term strategic framework, which speaks to decent employment through inclusive growth. This is an effort towards the realization of the National Development Plan in terms of resolving workplace disputes, improving labor relations, enhancing occupational health and safety, and facilitation of job creation. The 27 ANC Lekgotla resolved that the minimum wage should be subjected to reviews to determine the impact on households and on workers. The Labour Policy and Industrial Relations Programme receives an amount of 114.1 million to enable the National Minimum Wage Commission responsible for reviewing and monitoring the social impact of the minimum wage. It is to carry out its mandated work, and 20 rand an hour remains the minimum wage an employer must pay any worker. The Commission will be responsible for reviewing and monitoring the economic impact under the program of the Labour Policy and Industrial Relations. As a member of the International Labour Organization, South Africa has been offered the chance to co-host the 2019 summit on the 4th Industrial Revolution. Now, I think we need to bear in mind that the agricultural revolution created jobs, the industrial revolution created jobs and gave rise to trade unions. The technological revolution has made unemployment systemic throughout the world. Look at Occupy London, Occupy Washington, the Yellow Vest movement in Paris. All of those has got to do with that particular issue, and we need to look at how we look at those policies and take that forward on the 4th Industrial Revolution, not only in South Africa, but internationally. As part of this summit, the changing patterns of labor globally and the future of work will become part of that particular process and that particular summit. The ANC manifesto calls on government to take steps to strengthen existing laws to ensure faster change in employment, equity in the workplaces by enforcing accelerated implementation of employment targets. The ANC stands for a safe working environment, and the amendments to our Occupational Health and Safety Act enables health inspectors to issue fines immediately and increases the penalties to employers for violations. South Africa is a signatory to the conventions of a number of international bodies. There is therefore a legitimate expectation that we shall uphold these agreements and implement the spirit and the intent thereof. Pressure will naturally come from stakeholders to review policy positions. What we do as a growing party, as a governing party, is to listen to all and evaluate the balance of evidence prior to coming to any decision. Unilaterally withdrawing from international agreements and protocols is something we cannot do. We are signatories to the WTO, the ILO, to mention but a few. It is with this understanding that we have opted to strictly regulate labor brokers and to put a stringent bare minimum of 3 months employment under the Labor Brokers Act. I want to rush forward to deal with some other. The regulation of the labor market has received a fair criticism by certain organizations. The ANC-led government subscribes to a state that is an enabler and a regulator and a distributor. The state is a custodian of our constitution and adheres to the Bill of Rights. It enshrines the rights of all people in our country and affirms the democratic values of human dignity, equality, and freedom. The President has called for a social compact between government, labor, private enterprise to forge a partnership to take forward that economic growth path. The Labour vote enables the crystallization of the outcome 4 of the medium-term strategic framework, which calls for a decent employment through inclusive growth. Madam Chair, Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to talk about an experience in 1994. In 1994, a social compact was brought together, wherein all of us, inter-party, and those of us that were in civil society, the trade union movement, the business community, the faith communities, had all come together to actually become active in promoting South Africa and the national interests of South Africa. And there were liberals like Brian Goodall, who at that particular time would not talk down the currency. What happens today is the opposition sometimes sounds like the enemy and not the opposition. Because, in fact, they talk down the currency. The currency is actually based upon more perception than the facts on there. If you're outside the country and you're representing this country outside, you have to actually present those kind of positions. And what happens there is if the country is continuously portrayed as corrupt, as inefficient, as non-functional, then the currency will go one way, the way that people would want it. And in whose interest is that? It may be in the interest of the miners and in the interest, I will not take any questions, I'll take it at the end of the speech.
Honorable member, just a moment. Yes, Honorable Abishain. Can you put on the mic? Yes.
Thank you. Deputy Chair, on a point of order, I would like to know if the member will take a question.
The member already indicated that he's not taking a question, Honorable member.
Thank you, Chair, but he must communicate that. You must ask him because this is how it works.
The
Thank you.
member already indicated that he's not taking a question. So, Honorable Dango, can you continue, please? Thank you, Honorable Abishain.
Deputy Speaker, I will not take questions at this particular point in time.
You have indicated, I feel you have indicated.
The nation requires a comprehensive social compact that all of us, inter-party, labor, other organs of civil society, such as the faith communities, will actually come together in the self-interest of promoting South Africa. That is important, that we actually have a South Africa first. I was listening this morning. That's fine. I need the heckling on my left, but that's fine.
Honorable Dango,
Yeah,
can I just request that you self-concentrate on what you are busy?
thank you. I listened this morning to Rolf Meyer on the radio, where together with former President Montlanti, they were
Honorable
bringing
Dango?
together.
Can we just have a moment? Are you raising on a point of order, member?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and what is your order?
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, it's a concern that it looks like we are depriving our grandchildren an opportunity to gain from us.
What is your
There are
order?
many very old people. Now we are subjected to stories.
Honorable
Just
member,
like
what is your
that.
point
Because
of
those
order?
stories should be told to grandchildren.
Honorable member, can we
so-
just, for the lack of anything else, can we respect one another? Please, it's the only thing that I'm requesting. Can we just respect one another? Honorable Dango, can you continue?
I listened to Rolf Meyer, who was describing an initiative by himself and others in civil society, including former President Montlanti, talking about farm workers' rights, and how to promote farm workers. Here was an example of people coming together to promote South Africa and to promote a positive image about South Africa. My appeal, Deputy Speaker, is that all of us, in fact, act in the self-interest of South Africa, all of us act as patriots, and all of us act in promoting South Africa in a very positive light. If all of us come here and say the kind of things that some people in the opposition are saying, then of course we can see the RAND going in a particular direction. With those
Point of order.
I'm concluded at this.
Point of
Thank you
order,
very-
Madam Speaker.
No, thank you very much. Honorable member, Honorable Dango was just requesting that he conclude.
No, I was just
Can I just say something, Honorable? Can you just sit down? Let me just say something. There is one thing that I don't understand, and that is when an African person do not respect an elderly person. Because the way I grew up, my grandfather was from Kofimva, and what we have been taught is that you must respect the elderly. So even if you have a question on what he is doing or what he is saying, can we just do it respectfully? It's the only thing that I'm asking. Can we just do it respectfully? Then you may continue, Honorable Member.
Okay, Madam Speaker. I did understand what you were saying, but ke bile ka ba le kgatlhego mo nthong a e buang because e ka re o bua ntho e utlwahalang. So ne ke batla ho mmotsa ke sa tsebe gore tle bile ha ke respect. Mara ke bona ka re nna ke a respecta ka that question. A izanka a discuss le Rolf Meyer ka gore lefatshe la rona re ka le thola ka tsela efe. Gantsi ntho e na e bua le Rolf Meyer ha ka a tlhahla ya lefatshe gore lone re ka le thola jwang because ra le batho.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Can I just request the table, Honorable, I haven't recognized you. Please sit down. Can we just request the table to look into the issue of translation? Because I know that the Honorable Boshoff will now speak about the issue that there was no Afrikaans or English translation from the Tswana. So can we just please request the table to look at the issue of translation? Honorable Member, yes.
Thank you very much, Speaker. No, Speaker, I think there is something that you said. We must correct that before we continue. We cannot bring the question of ageism here. We can't say when we are talking that we talk about respecting old people. We respect each other here. But once you allow yourself to come here, you must be ready to subject yourself to robust debate. It can't be the question of age. Once we start doing that, Honorable Speaker, we'll be making a huge mistake of suppressing a debate.
Thank you, Honorable
based
Member.
on the age. So
Thank you,
I'm
Honorable
appealing to you,
Member.
Speaker, that we must
Not
do
even
that.
on the basis of what you have said, it is the way we address one another. Not even elderly or anyone. We are saying we are honorable members. Let us address each other in an honorable way. Honorable Dango, can you conclude?
Yeah, in conclusion, my appeal is, Deputy Speaker,
Point
is
of
that
order,
we act
Madam
as
Speaker.
patriots, that we act in the interest of
Point
South
of order,
Africa
Madam
and not
Speaker.
only in the interest of our parties, that we actually interact in a way where parties can actually share with each other, learn from each other, and in fact contribute to a strong and powerful South Africa. I thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Madam Speaker, I got tabela order ne ke ntshitse ya hore ke kopa hore a njwetse. Mona we were supposed to have a lot of people ba ile gore ba ka sebetsa ba tlhalosa ntho ile hore ya buiwa. Mara if yana motho ke botsa hore a o kila kopana a kana kopane le Rolf Meyer ba ne ba bua ntho e utlwahalang e monate e mo so a o kila bua le ene ka taba ya lefatshe gore lefatshe re le thola dileng. Gobane Rolf Meyer ke mongwe wa batho.
Agbarelit, ek dink ons moet voortgaan met die debat, kan ons orde kry nie eens. Agbar minister. Yes, Chief Whip. Chief Whip. Now the Chief Whip is speaking.
I'm rising to appeal that recently the House adopted the 9th edition of the rules of the House. And also all of us, without exception, went through the induction in how we would like to conduct the business of the House. When members are repetitive and irrelevant on the subject matter, that's the territory of the presiding officer. So it appeal that members should not smuggle points of order through debates from where they are seated. This debate is very structured, and we should duly respect one another, especially as we start with this important debate. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chief Whip. Honorable Connie, can you assist us after the debate has been concluded? Can you please sit down? And we will ask the minister to come and to respond to the debate. I'm asking you, I am requesting you to sit down. I am requesting you to sit down. We have already requested that the table must address it. I am requesting you to sit down, my dear. If you are, and your order is?
Person, I have been in the NCOP. I know about this podium. Honorable Motsamai does not know that members debating here do not have access to translation. So that is the direction I want to provide to say members who would be on this podium do not have access to translation. And he was speaking in Tswana, and the honorable member who was on the podium could not get access to translation. So if we can, in future, allude members who would be here a chance to get or access to translation. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Connie. You may sit down. It is still not a point of order. It is a procedural point. We will discuss it. Honorable Minister, you may continue.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me thank all the members who have debated in this particular session and made very valuable points and criticisms. And I think we have to accept a criticism because it builds. But we must differentiate between criticism and anarchy. All those who spoke here have raised this issue of unemployment as enemy #1 of the country. We all agree on that. But the problem is we differ in terms of the strategies. We differ in terms of the strategies. And as a ruling party, we are saying our priorities and our strategies to promote growth, to promote employment and poverty eradication, is employment creation and by leveraging the government's labor market tools, which are available to us, and use them to intervene. We know that the private sector is very important. We're not going to do it alone. And we need a labor market which is conducive to investment, which is based on stability, on appropriate skills. And everybody is saying skills, 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 and appropriate skills, and employment incentives. And we're saying this is going to be based, or social justice should be based on social dialogue. Nobody has all the answers. So the social dialogue is going to be important, but of course backed by enforcement. Just to respond to some individual issues, Honorable Boshoff, if you followed the reports about Nkandla, you will appreciate that. No, you must appreciate. You will appreciate that Public Works Department was never quoted by the Constitutional Court because it had implemented all the remedial action which came from there. We implemented everything. That's why we're never cited by the Constitutional Court. Maybe you're not in this country. And I agree. I agree that, Honorable Bishop, that the majority of those who are unemployed are without education and skills. But the problem is, when other people talk in this country, they forget what apartheid did in this country. When others were beneficiaries of apartheid, when others were beneficiaries of apartheid are on denial on what they did to the black people. And Honorable Dutoit, the issue of limiting the power of the trade union movement, constraining them, is not going to happen under the ANC rule. And I've said it yesterday, that's the core constituency of those who were disadvantaged and never had opportunities. And through the current labor legislation, we're trying to empower them. Because if you look into the balance of forces, the employers are very powerful. They can go to the powerful lawyers, they have all the monies and everything. And these workers do not have any other thing. That's why I accept, provided that it's put properly, I accept the issue from the honorable member of the EFF. We must visit some of these areas where there's a lot of exploitation together. We must go there together. But I must say, in closing, Chairperson, just last statement of closing. Criticize, but remember, there's a difference between a robust debate and anarchy. It's not taking us anywhere. But if you're raising the issues properly, now those who are anarchists, they know themselves, who were trying to derail the debate. But if you're raising the issues properly, you're making the other side to hear you and then engage, and we move together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That concludes the business of the day. Let me just thank the Minister and all the delegates that was participating in this debate, particularly those that came specially. Honorable members, we will now request you to remain standing until the procession has left the House, and the House stands adjourned.